You're not even in the will, sweetheart. My stepmother's voice cut through the summer air like a blade, calm, sharp, and intentional. So don't get too comfortable sitting there. It was the 4th of July, and the entire family had gathered at my grandmother's lakeside house in upstate New York. The smell of grilled meat mixed with citronella candles and red, white, blue decorations swayed gently in the breeze. It looked like a perfect holiday scene if you ignored the tension sitting at the table. My grandmother, Eleanor, sat at the head. Her silver hair was neatly pinned, her expression unreadable. She handed out 4 envelopes, one for me, one for my half-sister Leela, one for my stepbrother Ryan, and one for my older brother Noah, who conveniently hadn't shown up. I opened mine slowly. Inside was a cashier's check. $15. Oh. My name printed clearly, Alina Carter. Before I could even react, Victoria reached over and snatched it from my hand. She held it up like she was inspecting a fake bill. "Oh no, Eleanor," she said sweetly. "This is from that account you closed last year. Remember? You really shouldn't write checks from inactive accounts. It confuses people." No one spoke. Ryan didn't even bother opening his envelope. He tore it in half and dropped it onto his plate like trash. "Nice try, Grandma," he muttered. Leela hesitated, then quietly threw hers into the bin. "I don't want drama," she whispered. I looked at my grandmother. She didn't argue, didn't defend herself. Instead, she lifted her tea, took a slow sip, and very subtly pressed her finger to her lips. A signal. I slipped the check back into the envelope and into my pocket. No one noticed, no one ever did. That night, I couldn't sleep. The lake water lapped softly against the dock outside my window. The check sat on the nightstand beside an old novel at 8 a.m. I drove into town. The credit union was small and quiet. I handed the check to the teller. "I just need to confirm if this is valid," she typed. Paused, looked again. Then she raised her eyebrows slightly. "It's active," she said. "Funds are available." My chest tightened. "It's real." She nodded. "Would you like to deposit it?" Minutes later, I sat in my car staring at the receipt. $15,412.16, every cent accounted for. Which meant only one thing. Victoria had lied. And if she lied about this, what else had she been hiding? To understand why that check mattered, you need to understand my family. My mother died when I was 11. Cancer. Fast and unforgiving. She was a math teacher, the kind who trusted numbers more than people. She used to say, "Numbers don't lie, people do." My father remarried just over a year later. Victoria came from money. Old money. The kind that teaches you how to smile while taking everything from someone. She brought her son Ryan into the family confident and constantly praised. He got private coaching, expensive schools, and a luxury car at 16. I got a used calculator and advice to be realistic about my future. I worked my way through college, became an accountant. Quietly to them, I wasn't impressive. I was useful. Alina handles the numbers. They'd say, at parties like, I was a household appliance. 3 years ago, I asked my father for help, just $2,000 for a better apartment. He said money was tight. 2 days later, Ryan posted photos from a luxury resort. I knew exactly how much it cost, because I had done their finances. 2 years ago, I discovered something I was never meant to see, a trust fund, $520,000. Left to me by my maternal grandmother, supposed to be released when I turned 25. I was 27. I had never seen a dollar. When I asked my father, he didn't hesitate. "It was restructured," he said. "We're managing it for you." Victoria added, "You don't have the experience to handle that kind of money." I was a CPA, but to them, I was still the girl they ignored, so I stopped asking, but I didn't stop watching. Sitting in my car with that deposit receipt, everything clicked. The vacations, the renovations. Ryan's failed business ideas. That money hadn't disappeared, it had been spent. My inheritance had funded their lifestyle. I drove straight to my grandmother's real house. She was waiting. "You checked the account?" she said calmly. "It's real," I replied. She nodded. "Of course it is." Then I said it. "They took the trust." She went quiet, then slowly said, "Your father showed me a document, with your signature, saying you delayed the payout. I never signed anything." "I know," she said. Then she leaned forward slightly. "But we need proof." My grandmother's estate was worth millions, and there was a clause. Fraud voided everything. "If we accuse them without evidence," she said, "they'll take control of everything before we can stop them." So what do we do? She smiled slightly. We let them expose themselves. She called my father, put him on speaker. Her voice suddenly sounded weak, fragile, like she was slipping. I want to restructure the estate, she said, before I pass. My father jumped at the opportunity. Of course, Mom. But first, she added, a full financial review. Bring all trust documents. Everything. He agreed immediately, too quickly. That night, I logged into the family's shared cloud drive. They never removed my access. Because I didn't matter, at least. That's what they thought at first. Nothing happened, then -10 for 7 p.m. Files started appearing. Drafts.spreadsheets.pdf templates. They were building documents from scratch. Because the real ones didn't exist. I watched everything, version, histories, deleted files. Edits. Mistakes. They didn't know the system tracked all of it. By 2 a.m., the final file appeared. A polished trust statement. To anyone else it looked perfect. To me, it was a mess. The numbers didn't align. Returns didn't match. Real market data. Fonts were wrong. Metadata showed it was created hours earlier, on Victoria's laptop. They didn't think anyone would notice, but I did, because this wasn't just numbers, this was a story. And it didn't add up. The meeting took place in a quiet law office. My grandmother, the lawyer, me, then my father, Victoria, and Ryan walked in, confident, polished, ready to win. They barely looked at me, just like, always. Let's review the trust, the lawyer said. My father handed over the documents proudly. I connected my laptop to the screen. The fake statement appeared. Clean, convincing, a lie dressed as truth. I'd like to walk through a few details, I said. They didn't object. They couldn't. I started with the numbers. Here's a discrepancy, I explained. Then another, H1, small. Together impossible. Then formatting. Wrong font, I said. Side by side, with a real statement. The difference was obvious. Then performance data. Your returns don't match actual market records. Victoria's expression changed slightly, but enough. Finally metadata. Double quotes. This file was created 2 nights ago, on your device. Silence. Heavy. Final. You didn't manage the trust, I said. You spent it, Victoria snapped. This is ridiculous, but it was too late. The evidence spoke louder than she could. My father finally broke. We were going to replace it, he said. How much did you replace? The lawyer asked. Silence. None, he admitted, and just like that everything collapsed. The clause was enforced. Fraud voided there. Inheritance. Millions. Gone. Legal consequences. Followed. Restitution. Charges. Convictions. Everything unraveled. 8 months later, the trust was restored. I left my old life behind. Started my own forensic accounting business. Helping people uncover truths hidden in numbers. My grandmother and I grew closer. She once told me, love is like a ledger. The people who care about you, their numbers always add up. My father called recently. I watched the phone ring. Then I silenced it, and went back to work, because in the end, numbers don't lie. People do. And if you're patient enough, the truth always balances. After that meeting, everything went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of silence that follows. Something breaking beyond repair. For the first few days, no one spoke to me. Not my father, not Lila, not even distant relatives who used to send polite holiday texts. It was like I had exposed something they all secretly knew but didn't want to admit. Because admitting it would mean accepting that the family wasn't broken by me. It had been broken long before. I stayed at my grandmother Eleanor's house. Every morning, she sat at the same desk with her coffee, reviewing documents with the same sharp focus she had shown in that office. No hesitation, no regret, just clarity. You did the right thing, she told me once. I didn't do it for revenge, I said. I know, she replied. That's why it worked. A week later, the legal process began moving fast, faster than I expected. Accounts were frozen. Properties reviewed. Financial records pulled apart by professionals who didn't care about family ties, only facts. That's the thing about truth. Once it starts surfacing, it doesn't stop halfway. I received a call from the district attorney's office. They wanted copies of everything. The files, the metadata, the version histories. Every detail I had collected. Sitting at my laptop, organizing the evidence, I felt something strange. Not anger, not satisfaction, just distance. like I was looking at someone else's life. Because the truth was, had spent years trying to belong in that family, trying to earn approval that was never meant for me, and now that everything had collapsed, there was nothing left to hold on to. That realization hurt more than anything else, not the betrayal, not the money, but the understanding that I had never really been part of them to begin with. As the investigation continued, more details surfaced. And none of them were small. The $520,000 trust wasn't just used, it had been systematically drained, year after year. Quietly, carefully. Luxury vacations, private school fees, business failures that were never actually businesses, just expensive ideas with no accountability. But what shocked me most wasn't the spending, it was the pattern. They hadn't just taken money, they had justified it. Over and over again. She won't notice, she doesn't need it yet, we'll replace it later. That's how it always starts. Not with one big decision, but with small ones that slowly become normal. Ryan, surprisingly, reached out first, not to apologize, to defend himself. I didn't know where the money came from, he said. You didn't ask either, I replied. Silence. I thought it was just family money, he muttered. I almost laughed. Family money. There's no such thing. There's only money someone earned, and someone else spent. Lila never called, but I heard through relatives that she was devastated. Not about the fraud, about the inheritance she had lost. That told me everything I needed to know. My father, on the other hand, tried to reach me multiple times. Voicemails, messages. Each one more desperate than the last. Alina, we need to talk. Alina, this got out of hand. Alina, please. But there was nothing left to say. Because explanations don't undo actions, and apologies don't restore trust. Once a ledger is broken that badly, you don't fix it, you close it. I moved out within a month. Not far, just far enough. A small office above a bookstore. Quiet street. Big window. Second-hand desk. It wasn't impressive, but it was mine. I used part of the restored trust to start my own practice. Forensic accounting. The same skills I used to expose my family, now helping others uncover the truth. My first client came through a referral. Woman going through a divorce. She suspected her husband was hiding assets. He says there's nothing left, she told me. There's always something, I replied. I went through his records, slowly, carefully, the way I always do, at first glance clean, but then, small inconsistencies. Transfers that didn't match, reported. Income. Shell accounts linked to unfamiliar addresses. Within a week, I found it. $300,000 hidden across multiple accounts. When I showed her, she cried. Not because of the money, but because she finally had proof. That's when I realized something important. This work wasn't just about numbers, it was about clarity. About giving people something solid when everything else felt uncertain. Because lies create confusion. But numbers create truth. And truth gives people power. Over time, my life started to feel lighter. Not easier, but clearer. I spent more time with my grandmother, dinners, conversations, quiet evenings. She told me stories about my mother, things I had never heard before, how she used to double-check grocery receipts for fun, she said once. Smiling, I laughed. That sounds exactly like her. She saw the world in patterns, Eleanor added. And so do you. For the first time in years, I felt connected to something real, not forced, not conditional, just genuine. Holidays became simpler, smaller, better. No tension, no performances, no pretending, just two people sitting at a table, knowing exactly where they stood with each other, and that was enough. I also stopped explaining myself to others, relatives, old acquaintances, people who only knew half the story, because I learned something important. You don't owe everyone your truth, especially the ones who chose not to see it before. Almost a year later, everything had settled. Legally, financially, emotionally. My father's case ended with probation and full repayment. Victoria fought hers. Lost. Ryan disappeared from the picture entirely. Lila kept her distance. And me, I moved forward. One afternoon, I received another call from my father. I stared at the screen, same name, same number, different reality. For a moment, I considered answering, not for him, for closure, but then I realized something. Closure doesn't come from conversations, it comes from acceptance. So, I declined the call. set the phone down, opened my laptop and went back to work. Because, in the end, everything comes down to balance. Not just in numbers but in life. What people give what they take, what they hide, and what they reveal. My mother was right. Numbers don't lie. But more importantly, they don't forgive. Either they simply record the truth and wait for someone willing to read it,